And welcome back to this edition of From the Top with TIA Now. We're here at the Open Networking Summit in Santa Clara, California with Andre Fuich. He's the Senior Vice President of Architecture and Design at AT&T. And Andre, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, it's great to see you here. Of course, we saw you not even a couple of weeks ago at the TIA 2015 event in Dallas. We had a great conversation there, and somewhat of a similar conversation this time, but a little more about the transition of SDN and NFV from theory to deployment. I want to start the discussion talking about the trigger, if you will, that took us from those POCs to the deployments.
Yeah, so at AT&T, we've seen just explosive growth on our data networks over the last 10 years. If you go back to about 10 years ago, it was about, we were carrying about 5 petabytes of traffic across the network. Just last year, we hit the 50 petabytes per day of traffic. And this year, in the next couple months, we're going to hit 100 petabytes. And if you look at the massive amount of growth we've had, we realize that the way we scale our network, which has been very hardware-centric in the past, is not very scalable. We had to find a different solution. And that's where a software-centric approach was really important. And that's where SDN and NFV really came into play.
Andre, AT&T's network traffic capacity engineers had concerns and challenges 10 years ago, 8 years ago, and even as 5 years ago. But now those challenges are different with the introduction of SDN and NFV technologies. How so?
I mean, if you looked at a traffic engineer, let's say 10, 15 years ago, when we were predominantly a voice provider, that engineer really, only worried about one day out of the year. And that was Mother's Day. That's the largest volume of voice traffic that we have every year. Then as texting became more popular and that rose, then all of a sudden the big texting events were New Year's Eve. And that would be a big day for a traffic engineer to engineer for. And then when we got into more and more video being sent through MMS, Halloween was the big day there. But now that we've got into this full-fledged video streaming over the top, this has really created a lot of unpredictability and frankly volatility in our network. So now network engineers have to be much more sophisticated and they need a much more flexible, scalable approach. And that's really what SDN and NFV are bringing us, is that much more flexible, scalable way to meet that demand.
Andre, again, years ago we talked about a hardware-based network infrastructure. Now, of course, we're talking about software-based network infrastructures. Certainly a benefit to the industry, certainly a benefit to stakeholders in the supply chain, but really a benefit to your customers. How so?
Yeah, so obviously a great benefit to us. We see great economic improvements with these new architectures and solutions, but where it really benefits the customer is it gives them more control, more flexibility in meeting their needs. Also, when you look at these solutions, there's a lot of great innovation that comes with being more software-centric than hardware-centric. And that basically comes around speed. Software is a lot faster than hardware when it comes to innovation. So we really believe that we'll be on a course here to deliver more new, exciting, new, innovative products and opportunities to our customers because we will be more software-based than hardware-based.
Now, it wasn't long ago where there was some ambiguity, some confusion about the definition between maybe NFV and SDN. A lot less ambiguity now, but how would you define those two terms?
Yeah, so SDN, the typical definition of SDN is basically a separation between the data plane and the control plane of a network. And NFV is more about taking a network function that may have been physically based and now putting it and letting it ride on top of a virtualized infrastructure. Now the two come together quite nicely in that you can have SDN controlling a virtualized network function. So this really brings a lot of extra capability to our networks and for our customers.
Andre, as you know, there's a lot of, people call them legacy network hardware, kind of the heavy hardware network infrastructure equipment suppliers. How are they going to transition into the software-based world?
Yeah, this is a really big radical change for them. And it's changing a lot of their business structures and how they're approaching this. But this is really, although many see it as very disruptive, but it's also a great opportunity. A lot of these suppliers already are incumbent suppliers in many networks. So they've got a unique advantage in that they know how these networks work, they know how to interface with the upstream OSS and BSS systems, and they basically have an advantage to come in and bring in these new software-defined technologies and take advantage of it. It also is a great avenue for disruptors to come in as well, in that they can sort of break some of the tight holds or the vendor lock-ins that we've traditionally have seen. So I really think this is an exciting opportunity for both ends of the spectrum in the supplier space.
So these hardware equipment suppliers that had concerns in recent times about their hardware being commoditized, is that more of an opportunity now than a challenge?
Absolutely, it's an opportunity for them because although there is a lot of commoditization going on, but there's still a lot of differentiation within that commoditization. Functions will have different performance characteristics from one supplier versus another. And so that's the way they can differentiate, is their particular solution actually performs better or has different capabilities or their own sort of secret sauce, if you will, running on a virtualized infrastructure.
Andre, I watched a recent, I don't know if it was a panel or a keynote address by you at a similar conference, and you talked about the top-down approach to networking. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so traditionally we've taken this approach, network service providers, large scale, of a very bottoms up, where we would build reliability and scale in the hardware, and we'd work it all the way up to the service that would be running on top of that. And that approach has worked very well for many decades. But where we've seen tremendous advances and scaling is over in the web scale companies and what they've been able to do. And they've taken this sort of top-down approach. So where they build scale, resiliency, and performance is in the software layers that are sitting on top of commoditized hardware. So that's really the pivot we're looking at making when we shift to software.
Now, carriers like AT&T have had competition in the past amongst their small, maybe microcosm group of other carriers. Now you have other players getting into the game, getting to the networking game, getting into the virtual networking game. What is that? How does that change that competitive landscape for you guys?
Well, we invite the competition to come in. In fact, the more we can get on the bandwagon for SDN and NFV, the better it'll be for everyone. We believe with the long heritage of expertise and world-class engineers that we have with networking, we will always have a distinct advantage. So the more that can get into the boat with us on this, we're open arms.
Andre, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.